There were many reasons why Earth exiled its own children, but the loudest one was simple. Humanity was too much, too aggressive, too ambitious, too unwilling to submit. At least, that was the argument. The united coalition of the solar system, desperate to preserve its fragile alliance with the Galactic Council, decided that the best solution for galactic peace was to expel its own kind. And so, they cast us out. They crammed us into rusting colony ships, packed us in like livestock, and hurled us beyond the mapped borders of civilized space, fully expecting us to perish in the abyss. But reality defied their expectations. We made the void our home. The exiles were not the soft-spoken diplomats of Earth, nor the scholars who endlessly debated the ethics of ambition. No, those cast into the darkness were pioneers, warriors, engineers. People who could dismantle a problem with their bare hands and forge a solution from the wreckage. They understood that survival was a competition, and winning meant taking what was needed. The first years were brutal. Starvation, disease, mutiny. But hardship was just another obstacle to overcome. We adapted. We scavenged. We hunted. Then we conquered. Humanity became what the galaxy feared most: competition. While the Council races measured progress in careful centuries, we did it in decades. Where they avoided war like a plague, we wielded it like a scalpel. We found unclaimed worlds, stripped them bare, and built cities from their bones. We encountered weaker civilizations, crushed them, and took what they would not surrender willingly. And now, 100 years after the exile, the galaxy stands at a crossroads. They can fight us, or they can kneel. They will not surrender. General Hark strode across the bridge of the Iron Will, watching the stars glitter like distant threats. The Council still believed we were the same broken exiles they had discarded. Commander Roar leaned against the tactical console, a smirk playing at his lips. "That's the thing, sir," he said. "They don't realize they're already losing." The display flickered to life, revealing a map of the known galaxy. Marked in red, the territory of the Exiled Confederation had expanded over the last decade, like a spreading infection. Formerly neutral systems now bore the sigil of the Iron Sun, humanity's new banner. Even species that once shunned us had bent the knee in exchange for a place in our war machine. "We took Denvar 5 in under a week," Roar continued, zooming in on the latest conquest. "The Thran fleets never saw us coming. Half their ships were still in dry dock when our boarding teams hit their stations. By the time they got a distress signal out, we had already seized the capital." Hark nodded. "And the survivors? The useful ones were given a choice: work for us or be left behind. Most made the right decision," Hark mused, clasping his hands behind his back. "And the Council? How are they reacting?" Roar's smirk widened. "Poorly. They're sending an envoy." That made Hark chuckle. "I hope they bring gifts." "Better," Roar said. "They're sending Chancellor Vorin himself." Hark raised an eyebrow. "The same Vorin who called us reckless brutes unfit for civilization? The very one. He's docking at Outpost Helios in 3 days. He wants to negotiate." Hark exhaled sharply. "And what do they think they can offer us?" Roar shrugged. "Probably an insult wrapped in diplomacy. But that's the beauty of it, sir. We don't need anything from them anymore. We have resources, fleets, manpower. We've taken everything we need by force. If Vorin is coming to beg, that means they're desperate." Hark turned back to the viewport, watching as a fleet of human-made warships drifted silently through the void. No longer were they the outdated husks of their exile. No longer were they the unwanted dregs of Earth's cowardice. Each vessel bore the scars of conquest, outfitted with stolen technology, and improved by minds that had learned to turn adversity into advantage. "Tell Helios to prepare a proper welcome," Hark said. "Let Vorin see what his exiles have become." Roar straightened. "And if he comes with demands?" Hark grinned. The kind of grin that had made entire species tremble. "Then we remind him why the Council should have killed us when they had the chance." The docking clamps hissed as Chancellor Voron's sleek diplomatic vessel settled onto Outpost Helios. Once a derelict human way station, the station now gleamed with reinforced hull plating and state-of-the-art weaponry, a testament to what humanity had built in exile. As the airlock cycled open, Voron stepped forward, flanked by two solemn-faced guards from the Galactic Council. His silver robes barely concealed the tension in his posture. General Hark stood at the receiving end of the corridor, hands clasped behind his back, flanked by a dozen human officers clad in midnight black uniforms. No ceremonial nonsense. No pretentious welcome. Just a long, unbroken stare. "Chancellor," Hark said, his voice carrying the weight of 100 conquests, "I trust your journey was comfortable." Voron nodded stiffly. "General Hark, I come in the spirit of diplomacy." Hark gestured toward a side chamber. "Then let's not waste time. We have much to discuss." The delegation moved into a war room dominated by a massive holographic display. Red markings spread outward like wildfire. Humanity's controlled space. The Council's territory, in contrast, remained a shrinking blue cluster at the edge. Voron eyed the map before settling into a chair across from Hark. "This war cannot continue. The Council seeks terms for peace." Roar chuckled. "Peace? That implies both sides have been fighting. This has been a series of retreats." Voron exhaled through his nostrils. "Your expansion is unsustainable. Even now, you stretch your forces thin. Resources are finite. The Council is willing to negotiate. Territorial boundaries, economic trade, an end to hostilities." Hark leaned forward. "An agreement? You mean a leash. You want to contain us, limit us, ensure we never threaten your precious status quo again." Voron's hands tightened around the edge of the table. "Unchecked aggression will not benefit humanity. Sooner or later, your momentum will falter. And when it does, you will find yourselves surrounded." Roar smirked. "Surrounded? That implies we fear them. The only reason the Council still exists is because we allow it." Voron's gaze flickered. "You believe yourselves invincible. That arrogance will be your downfall." Hark folded his arms. "No, Chancellor. Our will to survive is what makes us dangerous. We were abandoned, cast out. We adapted. We grew. And now, we are more than the sum of what we were." Voron hesitated. "What do you want?" Hark gestured to the star map. "Everything?" Voron's lips pressed into a thin line. "That is impossible." "Is it?" Hark's voice was measured. "We have the fleets. We have the technology. And we have something your Council fears more than anything." Voron's expression darkened. "And what is that?" Hark's grin was slow and deliberate. "The will to take what we want." Silence filled the chamber. Commander Roar stood beside him, arms crossed. They barely put up a fight. Hark nodded. They never understood war the way we do. They never had to fight for their own existence. And now... Hark turned his gaze, locking onto the holographic display of the galaxy. The Council's core systems glowed faintly, distant, but no longer unreachable. "Now we move forward." Word of Volta 7's fall spread like wildfire. The Council's silence had cost them dearly. Their neutral worlds, long balancing between fear and loyalty, saw the shifting tides. Some surrendered immediately. Others sent envoys, eager to align themselves with humanity's unstoppable march. The Council, seeing their position erode by the day, made their last move. 3 weeks after Dra 7, the Council's largest armada launched a desperate counteroffensive. Their forces massed around Thra Prime, the last major barrier between humanity and the Council's homeworlds. Thousands of warships, more than humanity had ever faced at once, held formation over the planet. Hark studied the battlefield with quiet calculation. "This is their final stand." Roar grinned. "Then let's break them." The battle for Thra Prime lasted 3 full days. The Council fought with the desperation of a cornered animal, But humanity had spent a century learning how to kill desperate creatures. Human warships, faster and more adaptable, wove through the sluggish formations of their enemy. Ground forces, hardened by decades of frontier warfare, tore through the Council's elite soldiers. Their strategies were obsolete, their weapons outdated, their resolve brittle. On the fourth day, Kthra Prime fell. With its fall, the Council's remaining worlds crumbled. One by one, they surrendered, abandoned, or were taken by force. The Galactic Council, once a beacon of control and order, had become irrelevant. Humanity was no longer the exiled. They were the rulers. In the grand chamber of what remained of the Council, the last surviving members of the old order knelt before General Hark. Their robes, once pristine and adorned with symbols of power, were torn and dirted. "You cannot rule through war forever," one of them rasped. Hark met his gaze with unwavering certainty. "We don't need to. We rule because we won. We rule because we survived what you never could." The chamber fell silent. Commander Roar, standing at Hark's side, smirked. "The old order is gone. Humanity is the future now." With that, the Exiled Confederation's banner was raised over the halls of the former council. Humanity had conquered the stars. Years passed. The scars of war faded, but the lessons endured.